Yo! So, I got here Jackpot. If this looks familiar, this is probably because it's a deck that I already worked on before. I have a video, I'll probably link it somewhere over there or something. I'm very good at this deck, and I know I'm very good at this deck. I know I'm good at these colors. I know I'm good at playing this. I know I'm good at sequencing. I know I'm good at holding back mana, and I know when to play counter spells. So I really feel like that I'm truly good at this deck, and I'm going to toot my own horn on that because I don't build decks for myself. I build decks for people who have a certain brain to make it work. I don't build decks for myself. If it were up to me, I would just build Izzet decks all day. But I build decks for other people who have the brain or the capacity to make this work. And most of my decks have a certain flow to them where you can just pick up a card, you can just draw a card and you can play it. You can draw a card, you can play it. And that's the flow. There might be like one or two cards where you're just gonna have to hold back because you're maybe not ready to like play it. Maybe like something like Underworld Breach because you just don't have the other cards to go with it. However, I don't build decks for myself. I build decks for people who are good at them. Like for instance, like Friga, Cloud Farm. That deck is for very, very, very political people, very political speakers who use their words in games, who are very convincing with their words and hey, are you gonna let me get in and not block my creature? And they're like, sure, whatever. Like I have the counter spell right here, and you don't want to block this. Like that's what Regal's for. Regal's for those kind of people. That's not for me because I don't like to talk. I just like to put cards on the table and sequence everything out. That's just me. But that's for somebody else. That's for somebody like, I don't know, like Comedian or like Jorman or something like that. That deck's for them. It's not for me. However, I'm the kind of person who likes to play, cards in succession and execute every single thing that I'm doing. That's what Izzet for, and that's for me. It's very random, but it's also very calculated. And I like both of those aspects of Izzet. So, with that, I'm going to show you how to lose with this deck. Polywog Prodigy, Ral, Monsoon Sage, Harbinger of the Seas, Valley Floodcaller, High Fate Trickster, Treasonous Ogre, because since then, Dockside Extortionist and Mana Crypt have been banned, as well as Jeweled Lotus, so I kind of need mana. I also added in more cost reducers so I can make my turns more efficient, added in a card draw engine, added in a stacks piece, which is just Harbinger of the Seas, because people don't do anything with blue mana. As much as you like to think people do stuff with blue mana, people don't do anything with blue mana. I want blue mana so I can just win with that. And also my deck's also just straight up red and blue. Anything else that I added in, I just swapped out Last Chance. So I swapped out Warrior's Oath for Last Chance because I like the old border. Same card, does the same thing. Past in Flames. I added in Past in Flames. I cut the whatever card that was. I can't remember what it was, but it was like 5 mana. And it casts a couple cards from your hand, but it was like red, 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 red. I can't remember what it's called. It's escaping me, but I cut that for Past in Flames so I could just recover. It goes right into an Intuition pile. Anything else that I added or took out? I think I put in Otherworldly Gaze as the last time. Kept Stifle. I added in... I don't think I added anything else in the instance. For the artifacts, I added in Jeweled Amulet because there's no Jeweled Lotus and there's no Mana Crypt, so I just updated with that. And then I added Need for Speed because there's no Expedite anymore. Need for Speed also works with Underworld Breach. You can just sack all your lands to give your Breach more fodder. And then I also added in Thundering Falls, which is just a Surveil land. The Surveil lands are really good. It's also really good if you can just drop it on turn 1, take a peek at the card that you're going to probably flip over with Stella, and then you can decide if you want to, cast your 2 spells or not. I think that's pretty cool. And I also added Crystal Vein. Crystal Vein is just a, mana crypt replacement pretty much. It just sacrifices add 2 mana, but you can keep it around just to make it tap colorless. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all for the updates that I've been playing so far. But I'm gonna get into this win-loss record, so you guys can see how much I suck. So we got here my tournament history, courtesy of TopDeck.gg. And I've been losing for quite a while. There's a couple tournaments in here that are very small, where I did pretty well in, but I'm not gonna talk about those. I think this one, where I was playing at Alchemist Cove on September 7th, I guess I'll start here, but I only won 1 game, which is crazy, and I was top 10 after winning 1 game. But even then, I remember one of my games where my opponent, shout out to my opponent Dre, he cast an Angel's Grace into my Witherboom Apprentice Chain of Smog, and I totally forgot that that I could just make him lose the life and then pass the turn, and then he would just die anyway on on the end step, because it doesn't prevent loss of life. He would just go to a negative life total, and then I would probably gain infinite amount of life for God knows what. But I forgot about that. But the reason why I say this is because I won 1 game. I also made a mistake in a game that I could have won, which would have, helped me in my ranking, I guess. But it was a bad day for me. Even though I made, top 10, it was still a bad day for me because I didn't play as well as I would have liked to. I messed up a couple lines, like a couple win lines, and I didn't feel like I really earned my top 10 spot. And I feel like that kind of sucks for me. And the way that I got through that was by understanding that, hey, all I need to do is just practice a little bit more with this deck. And the way I practice is I practice by goldfishing. So the way that I can do this is I just come home every day. I sit down at my desk, I pull out a deck, and I just shuffle up, and I roll a dice to see where I'm at in turn order. So if I'm seat 1, seat 2, seat 3, seat 4, it might be like, I don't know. If I roll like a 1 through 4, then I'll be at one of those seats. If it's a 5 or 6, I'll just re-roll. But I'll shuffle up, draw 7 cards, then I'll determine my mulligan, and I'll usually look at my hand and I'll decide, can I win? If the answer is no, then I might put it away. If the answer is no, but there's stuff to do, how long is it going to take me to win? That's what I'm thinking about when I'm mulliganing. I'm thinking about how long is it going to take me to win, and how long is it going to take me to get there? And then I have to consider who's in my pod, how many blue pairs are in the pod, are they having any conversations like as we're mulliganing? Are they telling me, hey, look out for Stella Lee, we got to make sure we're on the watch and make sure he doesn't resolve Stella Lee. We got to keep the Stella Lee off board. We got to do this, and that. We got to X, Y, and Z. If they're talking about that, then I'll also take that in consideration. But the way that I goldfish is I practice for the worst case scenario. And with that, I mean, I draw 7 cards. So I go ahead and draw 7 cards, and then I look at it and I say, okay, well, if I have a Mystic Remora on turn 1, what if it just gets misstep? What's my plan then? What's my plan then if it just gets misstep? Sometimes I'll say, okay, maybe it doesn't get misstep, and then it's pretty much like D&D. Like I'm rolling, heads it gets countered, odds it doesn't, and then I'll go off from there. So sometimes, most of the time actually, it doesn't get countered, and then I have a Mystic Remora on board and it's a simulated game. And then I'll go ahead and roll a card for the turn cycle, and if it's 1 to 2. If I'm seat 1, I'll say I'll draw maybe 1 to 4 cards, maybe on the turn cycle. I'll go ahead and roll a 6-sided. If I'm seat 3, maybe the same thing, because even if you drop a Mystic Remora in seat 4, they're still probably going to play non-creature spells because they think you're so far behind. You have to think about these things. People look at you in seat 4 and they think, oh wow, he's so far behind, and they're just gonna feed you cards because you're so far behind and you're trying to catch up to everybody else who's ahead of you. And they say, wow, that sucks. We already played all our rocks, and now you're not gonna be drawing that many cards. They think that, but over time, if you go ahead and pay for your Remora, you'll be drawing cards and you'll be getting back in the game instantly. Those are the reality of the situation. So what I would say, me losing those games at Alchemist Cove is that, because I'm 1-3 here, I'm just straight up 1-3. I lost 3 games, fair and even, right? And so what I was thinking about is that, like, you know, did I play the best that I could have played? The answer was no. I did not play the best I could have played, and I could play better. So I'll have to practice, I'll have to goldfish, I'll have to keep simulating things in order for me to be better at what I'm doing here. The best thing you can do without any other player or without any other influence or playing in a pod is knowing your own deck. That is the only constant you can rely on, is your deck. As long as you have a deck and it's 100% most of cards that you know what they do, they all aid your game plan, you're going to have an easier time navigating your board state and being more efficient with your turn, looking at mulligans and understanding, yeah, I can do this. I can win with this hand, or I can stay in the game long enough for me to get somewhere. Those are the things you need to consider. And for me, I didn't really have that much practice with the deck. I had just built, I think I played in this tournament, I played Boogaloo Shrimp, which is the Neo Bad Farm. It was the first time I ever played that deck. So I didn't get much practice with it. I kind of just threw it together, and I still somehow made top 8, but I wasn't happy because I could have executed a win, whereas, you know, other 2 games that I just lost straight out. So I could have done that. Also, one of the things I need to get better at acknowledging the rules and learning the rules of the game and understanding how my cards work. Those are the things that you can control. Those are things that are in your control. If those things, say like you misplayed like I did when I cast a Chain of Smog with the Woolagaboom Apprentice and didn't commit, that should have been something that was playing over and over in your head, like, you know, not being able to do that because you didn't understand the rules. I didn't understand the rule. I didn't understand that when Angel Grace is cast, it considers damage. It doesn't consider loss of life. So I should have just sent it anyway, killed the other 2 players, and then brought, you know, my buddy down to negative whatever, and then passed the turn, because that's how Magic works. These are rules of the game, and I should have known that. As far as executing wins, sometimes you just get stopped, and that's okay. Sometimes that just happens, and that's completely fine. However, picking up good habits with your own deck and understanding where you could win and where you can win and understanding your lines perfectly, that is the prerequisite for showing up to a CDH tournament. It's just knowing your deck inside and out. Sometimes people would like to raw dog tournaments and just pop in with decks that they've never seen, like this one, like the one in Alchemist Cove. That's what I did. Sometimes people can do that, but I'm a brewer. I do this stuff all the time. And I was also coming out of technically retirement because, you know, I hadn't played in many tournaments since then. But yeah, I think I probably did the wrong thing by just taking a new deck to a tournament or not even practicing that much with my own deck, because that would have helped me get further in the competition. Shout out to DJ. DJ's been putting it on for the East Coast and throwing these tournaments and hosting these tournaments. Shout out to DJ. But I got 35th out of 81. And I played Stella Lee in this tournament, and most of the people that I ran into, they just didn't want me to win. And of course, like, what do you mean they didn't want you to win? Of course you don't want me to win. I would sit down to a table and I would just talk to people, and then people would just say, hey, I don't want you to win. like what? Like, are you kidding me? Like, they're like, well, I just don't want you to win. I don't care if I lose. I don't care who wins. I just don't want you to win. So I ran into a few people like that actually at the Summer CDH tournament, and I don't even know how to like handle that kind of situation. But you know, sometimes you just run into people who just don't want you to win. They just jump into their pod and they're just like, hey, I'm gonna kamikaze this. What can I do? And unfortunately, I don't even think there's a rule against that, honestly. And even if it's silent, there's like a lot of people who just want to like kill you off for no reason. Like, I don't understand. It's just because I don't understand the reason. I'm not willing to talk to them, I guess. But maybe what I should have done in that situation is, you know, I also realized that like I also play a part in the situation. This thing is still in my control. Just because somebody vocalizes or through the game action says, hey, I don't want you to win just because you're you, I could at least talk to them after the game and say, hey, why do you feel that way? And maybe learn a little bit more about it, you know? But I didn't do that, and I should have done that. You know, having a conversation goes a long way with people who have hard feelings about you. You should probably have more conversations like this. And also people who believe that they should, you know, target somebody just because of who they are. You should have a conversation with them. Maybe your opinion might change. Maybe it's already made up, but you know, we should have a fair game. Everybody should have a fair game. There shouldn't be any kind of like bad feelings or collusion in these tournaments, and you know, everybody should have a good time. You're like purposely going out of your way so somebody doesn't have a good time, and that sucks. But I should have did the thing where I asked you, or you know, try to have words with you and talk to you and see how you feel about that. Yeah, I played Stella Lee here. I got 1 game, 2 draws, 2 losses. I did not make top 10. And also with these top 10 cuts, it's just harder to get in because, and honestly, I don't even think I would have felt great about making top 16 on 7 points, I guess. I don't think I would have felt great with that. But then again, you know, same thing. People just don't want me to win here. Could have had another conversation. I just thought it was just one isolated instance, but apparently it's been following me to the next tournament. So it makes me think, what did I do? Second annual Festival of Nights, same scenario. I got 48th out of 72. Happens all the time. And it's okay. It's Mulligan's Tournament November monthly CDH. I got 20th out of 25. Same deal. This one, I actually decided to switch up my playstyle and start talking more. I started being a participant in political conversations and actually trying to use my voice in most of these games. And I went 0-2-1, but I did gain some more experience. Although I did lose, I did try something different. I tried to switch up my play style, and I have to commend myself for actually trying to do something different as opposed to doing nothing and just showing up, repeating the same result over and over and over again. So you gotta like commend yourself for trying different things and switching up your play style, and then give it a shot again. So what I did was I went from November to December, tried the same thing again. This time I went 0-3-1. And now I'm realizing maybe I'm talking too much. So for each tournament, you really have to think about who you're playing against, what's going on, how are you playing. So like I said, the constant is I played the same deck. So second annual Festival of Nights, Mulligan November monthly CDH, December Mulligan monthly CDH Underground C. I played Stella Lee for all 3 of these tournaments. So the constant was, because we're putting scientific backgrounds as me as an alchemist, I'm gonna say the constant was my deck. I did switch up my playstyle, and I did play against very similar players and even the same players. So my record would reflect that it's just the players. Even though I played the same deck, I played the same way every single tournament. And yeah, I played the same deck, the same way every single tournament. And the only thing I switched up was my playstyle. So now I know it's just me. So when we get to this winter CDH tournament, I did the same thing. So I was like, maybe that was just an isolated incident. And of course, let me just check and make sure. So now I did something else. I told everybody during Mulligan, I'm not going to accept any draws. So what that means is, usually in CDH tournaments, people will say, hey, there's a win on the stack here, there's another win on the stack here. Nobody wants to lose. You guys want to win. However, the lesser evil of the situation is we could just draw it, everybody gets a point, and everybody gets to walk away happy. That's usually what happens in CDH tournaments. However, me being me, experimenting again on Stella Lee, I said during Mulligan, so everybody would have time to prepare and actually think about the thing that I'm saying. Maybe they can Mulligan to prepare, like, hey, I don't want to lose, or I really, really want to win. I need you to pick a lane. So the reason why I told people, hey, I'm not accepting any draws, is because I need people to pick a lane. And what happens is when you tell people at the beginning of the game, you don't want to draw, that puts them in a pocket. So when they offer the draw, they know that it's not coming. And in order to execute a draw in the tournament, everybody in the pod has to agree to a draw. And if they don't agree to the draw, then there's no draw that's going to happen. So by me I'm trying to be kind about it. I'm telling them, hey, up front, like, yo, I'm not taking a draw. Mulligan appropriately, play your spells the way you should. Think about your game actions, take your time, and telling them, like, hey, I'm not taking a draw, so you make sure you play perfectly. Because people will mulligan sometimes, or they'll like think about the game and see like somebody's way too far ahead, and they're already thinking about, hey, I'm going to force this guy into a draw. They're already thinking about that. And that sucks. That sucks. But from me in playing those games, and I realized it makes people care a lot more about the game. So then games go to draws. So I got 2 draws. And for one game that I was like, hey, I'm not taking a draw, there was a person who was like, hey, I'm going to offer the draw anyway on the stack. And I'm like, no, like, let them win. They got it. Just let them have it. And then they're like, what if I just offer the draw right now? And I'm like, no, I told you in the beginning, stuck to it, let them win. You should have thought about this before. I already gave you the out. You didn't take it, so we're gonna let them win. And I think they actually made top 10, which was very cool. But again, constant deck, constant commander, constant playstyle, and then I switched up my speech in all of these tournaments. Now I have different results here for different data. So now I have 2 draws that I earned by telling people, hey, let's not draw. Which then makes people care about the game a lot more. It makes people better players, I guess. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And then this latest tournament that I played in, actually, as you can see here, I was in top 4 with Ian Jorman and Alexander. Top 3 in this tournament. We got my boy EDH Senpai. We got Comedian. We got Patrick, and then we got me. EDH Senpai was playing Captain America as a Teslas. Comedian was playing a cool Is It deck that I will not name because he's probably going to talk about it on his channel. And then Patrick, he was playing Tassiger, the good old boy Tassiger. And I was playing Stella Lee. So for this game, I can't really say too much because I don't want to ruin Ian's video, but it is a commander and it's combat based. And eventually I got down to like maybe like 16, and this is probably around like turn 4 or something like that. 2 other players were at like pretty medium life totals, like maybe like 20, 30. But I had to push for a. I actually had to like, I guess jokingly like push for a win and then play a One Ring and then I off of a Final Fortune turn and then try to stifle the lose the game effects. But Ian wasn't having none of that shit. he wasn't having none of that shit because I had to drop this One Ring so I wouldn't get attacked for a turn. I was already at like 16 and I wanted to make sure I could set up for another win again. There's too much removal on board. I didn't think I was going to win with Stella. I was just trying to buy myself another turn. And yeah, he was not having any of that. He's like, nah, you can't. You got to die, bro. But it was a good game. And losing that game wasn't really that bad because I lost fairly. I understood why Ian did the thing he did because also another way to cope with losing is, putting yourself in everybody else's shoes and understanding why they did the thing they did. So the first thing I would say is you have to offer up some compassion, some sympathy, and understanding for your other opponents because they're literally sitting at a different point of view than you. You don't know why they're doing the things they're doing. You haven't seen their hand. Unless you have seen their hand, whatever. But everybody has different feelings. Everybody has different opinions. You got to understand why people do the things they do in order to, I guess, cope with, understanding why you're losing the game. So, for me, all I did was play a One Ring. I tried to stifle the Final Fortune effect. And most people will be like, whoa, why do you want me dead? I need to be in this game. That's so fucked up. Why would you kill me at this point? But you gotta understand, Ian's playing a combat-based deck. I play the One Ring. He's not gonna be able to attack me. He gets the other players like very low in their life totals, and then it just leaves me at the higher life total. So he's got to think about weird blocks, and everybody else is going to use their removal to remove Ian's creatures. And that's probably Ian's perspective. He just didn't want me in the game, so he wouldn't have to worry about any of that stuff, which is pretty reasonable. You gotta understand. Sometimes people make reasonable plays because they just don't want you in the game because it helps them get further. And sometimes people mess up. Sometimes shit doesn't go their way. Sometimes they make perfect plays and say if Ian did all that just to die to the next person in turn order, that's just how it is. Sometimes that just happens. Sometimes people top deck cards or they draw cards and they just win. Sometimes that just happens. Sometimes luck is just on their side. And you gotta be cool with that. You gotta be understanding about that, But unfortunately, luck was not on Rob's side, so Ian got that one. Shout out to Patrick. Patrick had it like 4 ways the fucking Sunday, bro, but just couldn't get there. Shout out to Patrick though. That Tassiger deck was fucking sick. He played it very well, sequenced everything very well, except when he tried to win. But I think he understands this line about a lot better, and I hope he's taking it as a learning experience to get his, to maybe switch up his attitude and, play his deck more often. So shout out to Patrick. Patrick really did his thing. Round 2, we got me here. I'm second seed. Greg's first. I had a really insane start, and for this tournament, actually, what I did in opposition to the previous tournament where I said, hey, I'm not offering any draws, I didn't, talk a lot. I didn't talk that much this tournament. I just stood there. I just sat there, looked at posters, looked at figurines. I sat there, looked at posters, looked at figurines, caught eye contact with somebody across the room, said, what's up? I was like, just sitting there, just hanging out, kicking my feet, drinking a Red Bull, I was just hanging out. I was just hanging out. And sometimes I might say maybe a word or two. I might say hey, man, I don't know if this hand works. I only got 1 land. And I'll put my hand down. You think I can win a 1 land? nah, and I'll like put my hand down and like, I'm just kidding. I don't think I can win on one hand. And then people will laugh and, you know, during mulligans and, you know, just try to be comical, lighten up the mood and stuff like that. But I actually did have one land. I'm the player who does not lie to you if I tell you something is going on. I'm going to tell you, hey, I got one land. Like, hopefully this works. And I played one land, which was like and I played a Ragavan. That was going to get me to 2. I had a couple other rocks in my hand so I could play the turn 2 Stella. I didn't actually need the turn 2 Stella. I think I just really wanted to drop this Rhystic Study. And then I eventually just drew into a bunch of rocks, but still no lands. And I made like maybe like six mana, probably. I dropped Stella, played a couple other cards. At this point, I was pretty much telling everybody, hey, stop drawing me cards because I'm getting way too far ahead. I have 7 cards in hand. And then opponent drops a Bowmaster, somebody copies the Bowmasters, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess my Ragavan's dying, which it eventually died. All the dorks got pinged off the table. I only had Stella left because she is thick. She's got 4 toughness for some reason, which is great. Love to see it. So at that point, I just stopped drawing cards. Just being, you know, honest player. Hey, I'm going to stop drawing cards. I don't want anybody to get pinged anymore. By then, I already had the win in hand, sequenced everything out, and then I went with Underworld Breach. So, didn't even need Stella. I used Stella to... Actually, what I did was I played a Treasonous Ogre, and I had a really, really long storm turn, like traditional Izzet. Like I was just going, lightning bolt, lake of fire, like
lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lake of fire, lightning bolt, lake of fire.
Route was already flipped. I think I had to kill the Bowmaster because I had a Windfall in hand. I was thinking about using that as like a contingency plan. It was cool. It was probably like the most fun I've ever had playing CDH since like 2016, probably. It was great. Like I did everything I wanted to do. You know, I did all of my math correctly. You know, had a bunch of red mana that I was going to use. It was great. But yeah, minimal talking. I didn't talk anything. The only thing I said were the couple jokes that I said, and that was it. And other than that, I was just honest about everything that I had. So, yeah, shout out to them. I believe, yeah, Lopez was on Sisse, I was on Stella, of course. Matt was on Dina, and then Connor was on Thrasios Tymna. Shout out to Matt. Dina's a very good deck. It's just a 1-card combo in the command zone. And then Connor, he's just cool and collected, bro. I admire this man. Shout out Connor. Let's go into round 3. So we got round 3. Pod 2 was me, Jake. Shout out to Jake, Westchester boy. You got Joe, and we got Tyler Duncanson. Okay, then we got round 4. Jorman won this game. It was a really weird situation where Jorman had 6 points. I already had 10 points. Niall had maybe like 2 draws, I think, or maybe 1 draw. But, you know, because it was such a small tournament that no matter if he won or not, he was definitely not making top 4. And DJ, I think he's going for 10 points, I believe. Let me make sure before. Okay, round 2. What we got? Where's DJ? DJ, yeah, DJ won round 1, so he was going for 10 points. So DJ was going for his 10 points. And yeah, I'm not going to say how he won, but it was a very awkward game. The politics were very awkward because Drummond had 6, I had 10. I was already making top 4. Niall wasn't going to make it. DJ probably wasn't going to make it either. It was just a really weird game. I didn't care where I was going to be. I don't even care about the seeding in top 4. I don't give a fuck. Like, I didn't give a fuck, and I made that very clear at the beginning of the game. I didn't care. I didn't care what seat order I was in. or I really didn't care because I knew I was already going to be in top 4. That's how the math was mathing. I already knew I was going to be there. And lo and behold, I'm in top 4 with Ian, Jorman, and Alex. And I guess when to talk about this game. No, I'm not going to talk about the game. I'm not going to talk about this shit. But yeah, it was a cool game. Ended very abruptly after lots and lots of politics. It just, just ended. That was it. Like, but yeah, that was it. If you enjoy the content on the channel, make sure to give me a big old like and subscribe down below. And check out the links, Linktree, tcgplayer.com, Patreon. Check out all of that. And I'll catch you later in the next one. Peace.
These hoes act like they don't know, like they seen na yo. ついてこいよ、やばきんなよ。俺になりたい、みんなよ。参拝するぜやって